Okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm the Mellow Mama and today I'll be sharing about baby led weaning. I know lots of you have been saying, Kate, when are you going to post another video or what's going on? And I have to apologize, but I definitely prioritize my son over any type of project I have going on, and that also includes YouTube. He's been awfully under the weather. As you can see, I can't even film this without him next to me because he's requiring lots of cuddles. Hey. Baby, I'm sorry. But I do want to make more content for you guys and I want to keep my channel growing, so here we are. But I do apologize. I know I keep promising to make videos Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and I swear I promised to myself that I'm going to start doing that. But, you know, when your baby is not feeling well, what can you do? You know, it's like, I can't. If you are familiar with us, then you understand that I love anything and any philosophy that allows me to take a passenger seat approach to Donovan's exploration, his learning, his development, and his life experience. So of course, when I discovered baby led weaning and more of a Montessori slash self-guided approach to eating solid foods when I was pregnant, I was super excited to exercise it when Donovan actually came. Love RIE parenting and objectivist parenting, and I follow those philosophies actually very closely. However, I have to say that this baby led weaning is not technically RIE approved. The reason is Magda Gerber stresses with pretty extreme clarity that caregiving acts such as feeding, bathing, and changing require 100% full attention. And of course, baby led weaning is about self-feeding, so Donovan feeds himself. And although I am completely attentive to him for all kinds of reasons, not just the respect and the connection, but also safety in this case, I don't have the same kind of undivided attention that I would give him if I were feeding him myself and waiting for him to chew and swallow and all of that. So this isn't technically RIE approved, and I just want to get that out there in the open in case some of you guys are confused. However, I have to say that I find this to be the most respectful option, and that's why I chose to do it. So what is baby led weaning? Baby led weaning is an expression coined by Bill Rapley and Tracy Merkett in their book Baby Led Weaning, The Essential Guide to Introducing Solid Foods. In their book, they discuss an approach in which you allow your baby to self-feed finger foods as opposed to feeding them via the airplane spoon some purees. Babies that follow this approach are encouraged to join their parents or whoever their caretakers are at meal times and self-feed the appropriate finger foods. They also choose what they want to eat, how much of it they want to eat, and how quickly they would like to eat it. They get to explore new tastes, new smells, new textures, and new types of food all the time because you feed from the parent's plate as opposed to making a specific meal for them or a completely different menu for them all the time. Babies doing baby-led weaning are also encouraged to continue to nurse or receive a bottle just as much as before. This is not to be confused with a replacement, like, you know, now that you're feeding your baby solid foods, they no longer need milk. Their main source of food should still be coming from breast milk or formula. On the same note, we know that breastfeeding is the best possible option for our kids, and it's an even better introduction for baby-led weaning. The reason being the flavors of the food that the mama is consuming when breastfeeding, the baby is also consuming, which is going to hopefully lead to a more diverse palate later on. Just like when your baby is nursing and they know when they're full and want to stop eating, a baby that's following the baby-led weaning approach can also have the control over their portion size and what exactly they want to put in their body. To me, this is such an important aspect of a healthy relationship with food and a healthy relationship between me and my son, in which he, once again, has the reins in his life. I never wanted to feel like I was shoving food in his face to finish everything that was in a jar or whatever. I wanted it to be a much more natural approach, and that's what baby led weaning is. You might be wondering when you can start introducing solid foods to your baby, and the answer isn't exactly cut and dry for everybody. Experts do mostly agree to wait until around 6 months to start introducing solid foods, just because your baby's digestive system is not fully developed. It's not mature enough to handle solid foods, and there is a higher risk for allergies and just poor digestion. However, some babies are going to need a little bit longer than 6 months. You never know, so you need to look out for the following signs of readiness. Before feeding solid foods, your baby should be able to sit up on their own without any type of support or assistance. They should no longer have the tongue thrust reflex where they spit out any type of food that you put in their mouth. Look out for also the pincer grip, which is like this, between the index finger and the thumb, not the palm and the fingers like this. Your baby should be willing to actually chew the food regardless if they have teeth or not. Donovan started eating before he had any teeth at all. One of the biggest signs of readiness is when your baby actively pursues whatever you're eating. So if you're sitting at the table and your baby's with you or sitting in your lap and they reach for food and try to put it in their mouth, it's a very big sign that they want to start eating solid foods. There are lots and lots of benefits to baby-led weaning. First of all, every person craves autonomy and independence from the moment they arrive here. So the fact that I can allow Donovan to do something on his own and explore something on his own is a beautiful thing for me, and it's a very important aspect of my parenting style. A lot of people think that because your baby doesn't have teeth, they can't possibly chew these foods, and it's not true. This is strengthening their jaw. It's allowing him to understand that you need to chew and then swallow, as opposed to a puree where you just swallow the food. So that's another thing to clear up. Most people think this actually increases the choking hazard, and it's quite the opposite. So it allows him to develop his fine motor skills by holding a spoon or a fork, or in general just bringing food from the table to his mouth and observing the food. It's just a really beautiful thing to watch. It exposes Donovan to our family meal times, so not just the food and eating, but also table manners and more time, just the three of us really invested in each other and listening to each other, and that's a really nice time of the day. Of course, one of the biggest advantages of baby-led weaning is less cooking and preparation. There are really no studies that support purees as a first food. The ones that did exist came out when people really suggested that you should introduce solid foods around 4 months of age. And now we know that that's really not a good idea because, like I mentioned, there's a higher risk for allergies, and it's just really hard on your baby's digestive system. But aside from them just not being the best option in that right, it's also a lot of work to boil and peel and steam a bunch of stuff and then puree it and store it, as opposed to just giving your baby what's on your plate. And it also really promotes healthy eating for parents, in my opinion, because I've noticed personally that if I'm eating something bad, it brings a lot more attention to it now that Donovan eats solid foods. So whatever snack I was having the other day, like a macaroon from Trader Joe's, I'm like all of a sudden very, very curious about what exactly I'm eating, what ingredients are in here, because Donovan wants a bite. So if you're somebody that's looking to have a healthier lifestyle and have more clean, raw foods on your plate, this is an even better option for you. But in general, to have less work to do, less cooking, less cleaning, it just sounds so nice, especially for a mom of multiple children. And also your baby's going to have, like I mentioned before, a more developed palate. They'll be a little bit more adventurous with what foods they eat and what they try. However, I have to make a note here, and I read something really great about this. I'm pretty sure Rosalind Ross touches on this in her book, but the fact that you would never mention to your dinner guests, whoever they might be, as long as they're adults, what's on their plate when they go to leave, or what's on their plate when they're finished eating and everybody's just chit-chatting. You would never make a friend or, your spouse or something finish everything on their plate. And we like to use in our household the same exact approach. And Donovan's just 9 months old. However, if he doesn't want to eat something, or if something doesn't look appealing to him or smell good to him, we don't say a word. We never mention what's left on his plate. We don't mention that he's a good boy or he did a good job if he eats everything. It's literally just there if he wants it, and he tries everything. Donovan loves to eat, and even if he didn't, it wouldn't really be a very big concern to me. Because being fed is such a basic human need, I don't believe that children would work against their genetic code and starve themselves So I just trust that Donovan's full, or trust that Donovan might want to try something like that another time, but I never cater to his needs as far as what he prefers to eat or something like that. I just simply put what I'm eating on his plate as well, and he usually goes for it. But if he doesn't, I don't say a word, and I highly advise you guys do the same. All of the moms that I've read that do this, they have really great eaters, adventurous eaters, and kids that will enjoy really quality, rich foods such as sushi or steak or delicious green veggies or green juices. I think that's what we all want for our children, not just because, you know, it's easier on us or whatever. We don't need to make mac and cheese and chicken tenders every night, but it's so much better for our bodies and their bodies as well to be eating good quality foods. Also, and this is when it does get right unfriendly, one last benefit to baby-led weaning is that when your baby's feeding themselves, it means you can also eat. And this is such an important aspect of motherhood, in my opinion. You've got to be fed in order to lead a healthy, upbeat, energetic household. And sometimes you really don't have a lot of time to eat in the day. I know, I'm a mom, so baby-led weaning has allowed me to just enjoy and force myself to make myself a meal because Donovan needs to eat some solid food. So whatever he's eating, I'm eating. And there's a really good study I read, and I'll link it in the description box below, that indicates that babies that get to choose what and when they eat have better self-regulation and then a lower BMI at an older age. To get started with baby-led weaning, you just need a safe place for your baby to sit. I was actually very disappointed that I couldn't do a Montessori weaning table, which is just a child-size table and chair with a cute setup for them. My apartment is like 1,200 square feet, and the way that it's designed is just, there's no real extra space for us to do something like that, so bummer. But if you have a bigger place, I would totally look into that. So check out Montessori baby-led weaning and you'll find lots of options. You'll also see lots of really adorable videos of children like eating from a fork at like 9-10 months old. It's actually pretty cool, but I don't in any way think that this is a way to like force your baby to do anything earlier than they're ready to do. That being said, you need a safe place for your baby to sit. A high chair is an option that I didn't want to use but ended up using because someone gave me a high chair. The reasoning behind not using a high chair is that a baby cannot get in and out of it on their own, thus making it a little bit disrespectful. But I really think that if you just simply watch for your baby's cues and respect them, so if Donovan is done eating or if he's just ready to be out of the chair, he doesn't feel like sitting it anymore, I would simply clean him off and let him out of the chair. No, it's not the best, most respectful option, but at the same time, you have to also consider your own needs as a parent, so don't beat yourself up if you're somebody that wants to like stay by the book and be like, okay, Magda Gerber is going to come for me in my dreams if I continue to use a high chair. It's going to be fine. So we used a high chair. Originally, I planned on using like a bed and breakfast little table and have him sit on the floor. And I did that from time to time, but honestly, to have him sit at the table was just so much better for us, so we ended up using the high chair. We used the Peg Perego one that my neighbor gave me for free. Later then we transitioned into a booster seat from Target, and I'll link that one below also because it's really, really nice and secure, and I like that Donovan can just sit in one of our chairs right next to us, so that's really, really nice, and I feel like he's less restricted that way also. But both of these were super easy to clean, and that's going to be something that you definitely want if you're going to follow the baby-led weaning approach because it is actually pretty messy. And aside from the chair, you only really need food, but I do recommend a few other things. I would recommend having some sort of organic, all-natural cleaning supply just because you're going to have to clean the surface of your table or the tray of your high chair and the seat that your baby is in every single time that they eat. And I would just hate to think that I am, you know, dipping my son's piece of banana in a bunch of chemical crap. Along with that, I recommend getting a sippy cup. Some people say that feeding from the bottle increases the risk of nipple confusion. We didn't experience that at all. Donovan happily drank milk, breast milk from a bottle at like 5 weeks old. Ben would feed him from time to time that way. And then, you know, of course, when we introduced like a little bit of water with some of his meals, he also drank it from a bottle, but now we've transitioned to like a little sippy cup that he drinks from at meal times. I did also invest in baby utensils, a tiny plate, and a bowl. You don't need these things necessarily, especially if they are eating directly from a tray, but I like to present things nicely for Donovan so that he gets kind of some sort of grasp of reality and what eating is really supposed to be like. I don't want it to be like a barbaric, crazy thing from the beginning. I don't necessarily need bibs. A lot of the time I feed Donovan without any clothes on, that way it's easier for cleanup, but I do use these little silicone bibs that have a little pocket in the front, that way they catch all the food that he drops, and it's actually really nice to just pull that out and re-hand it to him. And some people recommend having a splash mat or something on the ground, or a little grippy mat on the table to keep their plate and things in place. I don't have either of those, but it is messy and there is a big risk for your child picking up their plate and throwing things. And then you just need the food. And what I recommend are simple foods. We went with banana, sweet potato, cucumbers. We used watermelon, mango, zucchini, squash, pumpkin, and broccoli to start. I realize that's a lot of different foods, but he really enjoyed all of them, and I did kind of pace it on a weekly basis at first. I would try one food for maybe at least 3 to 4 days before introducing anything else, just to make sure he didn't have any sort of reaction, but he was always pretty good. Around 8 months, I introduced tuna to Donovan, and on very rare occasions he eats chicken. I wanted him to basically be a vegan baby until a year, but we do consume meat and he eats at the table with us, and he asked for it, so we gave him. A couple of other things that I didn't give him in the beginning were blueberries and strawberries and peas. Donovan's favorite food of all time was avocados, and now it's definitely clementines. He loves the juice from a clementine, and still mango reigns supreme. But in general, think of a nice variety of fruits, vegetables, and healthy fats. Things that are soft and easy to swallow, and just in general easy to manage and hold on to. We avoid anything that doesn't have real ingredients and doesn't come from the earth. So no refined sugar, no high fructose corn syrup, no excessive salt, anything really processed we do not feed to our son or ourselves. And of course, he can't have honey, caffeine, animal milks, and undercooked food. The one processed food that we do give Donovan on a regular basis is bamba, and this is just an Israeli peanutty snack. And all of the kids in Israel eat this, but according to Ben and lots of people that I've talked to, it's really rare to come across somebody, an Israeli kid, who has a peanut allergy, and they all think it's because all of the kids are eating bamba around 6 months to a year old, and that's exposing them to peanuts. But that's the only one, and it's for that significant purpose. And a few more tips to finish off would be that this is a learning process, just like everything your baby does. It should not be rushed or forced. The whole point of doing baby-led weaning is to follow a more natural guideline and to allow your baby to lead the way. So if they're not eating what you're putting in front of them right away, don't worry about it, don't stress out about it. One more thing is that it's a very common concept to cut pieces very, very tiny for your kids in order for them to not choke. And I've mentioned this also already in this video, but baby-led wean babies learn that you need to chew food and then swallow it, which actually really reduces the risk of choking. But I recommend having bigger chunks of food, that way your baby can actually hold on to it and grip it, as opposed to tiny pieces that kind of like slip out of their fingers if it's something like avocado or strawberry. And on that same line of choking and gagging, I really recommend that every person gets CPR certified, just because it gives you some sort of peace of mind. And of course, lastly, keep in mind that you can mix and match different philosophies and approaches all the time. And this is what I do as a parent, just because I read so much and I like so many different opinions and interpretations of things. Hey, so just because you're doing baby-led weaning does not mean that you can never feed your baby something that is mushy. I feed Donovan applesauce. He has those little pouches sometimes. And in general, if something's mushy, like I make avocado toast, so a spread out of avocado and some lemon and a tiny bit of oil. If we're eating that on toast and there's some extra, I'll just feed it to Donovan via a spoon. He will try to take the spoon from me because he's an independent guy. But the point here is that you don't have to just follow one way. You can tailor the approach to fit your needs and your baby's needs, and you'll be just fine. So that's my introduction to baby led weaning for you guys. I hope it was helpful. If you learned something or if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Leave me in the comments your favorite baby led weaning stories or your favorite feeding stories, or just something that you really liked about what we had to share today. Hi, my goodness. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. I share videos about parenting, about being a happy, healthy person, and pretty much whatever you guys ask me for. So look forward to more content from me, and I look forward to hearing from you guys. Yeah, I will see you on the next one. Mwah. Bye!